Well, hello there, and welcome back to the latest episode of my Love Machine podcast. Now, thank you very much for joining me again. Today, I'm going to be covering something that is a big question many people ask themselves, and they come to me and they can't quite believe. They say, James, why am I still single? Not me personally, I'm happily married, but the singles themselves come to me and they say, why am I still single? What am I doing wrong? What could I do differently? Why is it that everybody else in the world seems to be happily paired up and I'm not? So today, to talk to me about this wonderful and interesting and fun topic, I've got the lovely Ieva. Now, Ieva, welcome to my show.
Thank you so much for having me, James. I'm very excited.
I'm very excited. It's been a little while we're trying to get this going, and here we are now. So, Ieva, you're a dating writer and you write dating books, one of which is called
Why am I still single for women?
That's it for women. Why am I still single? Now, can you tell everyone your full name? Because I can't pronounce it.
So my full name is Ieva Kambarovaite.
Fantastic. I'm not going to ask you to spell that, but it's always easier if I ask my guests to say their own names rather than mispronounce it, because that's a very embarrassing way to start my podcast. But you've said it now. We had the conversation off air just to introduce this to everybody. I'm not suddenly being really, really rude, but thank you very much for doing this with me. I know that you've been writing books for quite some time now, because I followed you on various channels like LinkedIn. So you've written, how many books have you written now?
I've only written 2 books. And you know, when you say that I've been writing books for a long time, I don't feel like that. And also for me, this is like a very big 360 moment, because I actually didn't tell you that, but when I just started in this whole dating and relationship industry and I was researching the industry, and you were one of the first people that popped in the UK when I was Googling things. And I remember I went on your website and you looked so fancy in your suit and in everything. And I was like, wow, you know, who is this guy? Also shiny. And if someone told me I would be on your podcast, I would have never believed that.
Oh, that is a lovely, lovely story. That made me blush already. That's fantastic. I can reverse the story though, because I remember a few years ago, well, actually many years ago, maybe 15 years ago, when I first started myself, there was a guy in America who was absolutely amazing, and he used to do podcasts before they were called podcasts, and he did these radio interviews, audio interviews, and I used to listen to him years ago when I was single, and then a couple of years ago, he asked me to go on his podcast, and I was absolutely overwhelmed and did that. So I can understand what that's like. It's a big deal, but I am I am blushing now from this, and that's me reversing it. But great, thank you very much. It's good to know that someone can find me on Google, because there's a lot of competition.
That means, you know, whether you are doing your SEO or whoever is doing your SEO, they're doing a great job. So well done.
I do it myself. I do it all myself.
Oh, wow.
I do. But anyway, digressing back to our topic, which is that why are you still single? So it's a bit of an obvious question really, but what made you write your book? Who is it aimed for and what is it about?
So when I wrote my first book, which has got a bit of controversial title, How to Get Laid Now for Men, and I would go to all kinds of events talking about my book, and I would be approached by women, and these women would try to buy this book. And, you know, it's nice to make money, but I would also tell them, do you know that this book is for men? And they would be like, oh, it's fine, you know, I still want to learn things. And then women would approach me and they would be like, oh, I need that kind of book. So then at that point, I said, you know what, I'm probably, if I get something like How to Get Laid Now for Women, maybe it's not the right book. So then I wrote Why Am I Still Single book. And the book is more like no, it's not like autobiography, but it's also a how to stop attracting unavailable people, and my journey of going through and attracting unavailable people, married guys, narcissists, and how I, if you want to call it, healed myself, and how I understood my love patterns, why I fall in love the way I do, why I self-sabotage my relationships, why I people please, and you know, all these things. So I put that in a book. And yeah, and there was a book, and then I applied the things that I put in the book, and that helped me to attract the partner that I'm with now. So Yeah, happy ending.
I was going to ask you that question, if you were still single or not. And it's a question that everyone seems to ask dating experts, isn't it? Are you in a relationship? What's going on? At least that's what happens to me on Instagram. I seem to get bombarded with women asking me if I'm single or not. And I'd like to believe that they're all interested in dating me, but I think it's just because they're just curious to know that. Do you get that?
But that's the thing, you see, when you are a single person and you are talking about how to meet someone, how to attract that person. I remember when I was single and I was talking about that, I felt like, am I a fraud? Can I actually go and talk about those things? Because I'm not really in a relationship myself. But then I was also thinking, wait a minute, you're not really telling how to be in a relationship. You're talking more about how to get from that place where you're attracting someone who is not good for you, someone who is never showing up in the way that you want, someone who's playing games with you, how to get into that place where you actually stop attracting these people and you start attracting someone who is more like a, let's call it the term that people know, the high value man, or the high value partner that you want to attract. So it's, yeah, that kind of thing.
So you were single yourself, and you decided that you write down a book about all the things that you tried and learnt about yourself. So the reason you were still single before, because you were just attracting the wrong sort of people. Is that right?
So it was that. And then what happened when I tried to shift that into, okay, I kind of understand why I attract the wrong kind of people. I was like, I want to start dating the nice guys, the so-called nice guys. But then when I went on these dates with these nice guys, I could see that they're very nervous. They don't know how to show up. They don't know how to treat a lady. They don't know how to even uh, get like a second date, or even tell a woman, you know what, I fancy you, I'd like to take you out. They would get this approach more like, oh, I want to find out more about your work, I want to network, like, are we going to make pancakes together, or are you coming over to my place? It's a very different thing. So that's why the where the first book came, because I wanted to help that nice guy also to attract that kind of woman, that he can show up and be like a so-called high value man, so he's more confident. Because very often these nice guys get a label that women don't want to be with them. So I was going from a journey of attracting unavailable guys, then attracting nice guys and not knowing what to do with them. And then finally I got the guy that I really wanted. And
And where
yeah,
did you meet? Where did you meet him?
I met him on Tinder.
Tinder, of all places.
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been together for?
We've been together now for how long we've been together? It's going to be 3 years soon that we known
Oh,
each other. But firstly, we were like in a different kind of relationship. But now we're like in a serious relationship. We actually moved in together 3 months ago. So it's the very
congratulations.
strong pandemic love. Thank you.
So you were using Tinder when it was good, back towards the start of the earlier years of it.
I don't know. I think, with Tinder, because I was laughing about this, talking to my sister about that, and she also met the guy that she's with on Tinder, and we are these success stories. But I think with any platform, you have to just know how to use it, and but then I also think that with Tinder, you have to work a bit extra hard. So it's better to go to a platform where people maybe are a bit serious, and then when you ask them why they're single, they will maybe tell you why they're single. I don't know with this question, why are you still single? It's like when guys, they approach a woman online and they're like, oh, why is such a beautiful woman still single? What do you think is a good answer for this when someone asks you that?
Many women ask me that question, and they say that they find it really offensive that guys will say to them, "Why are you still single?" As if there's something wrong with them. And they feel the need to justify it and say, well, whatever reason, just say that I've been having fun life and I've decided now I want to meet someone special. And that's what you need to say. It doesn't need to elaborate
Mm,
on this. You don't need to justify it or explain yourself. You are who you are. Maybe you've had some broken relationships. Maybe you've not done any dating. It doesn't really matter. It's irrelevant, because I think as a coach, whatever's happened to you in the past has made you who you are, but it's just not relevant to your future. All you can do now about being single or not is the decisions and steps that you take today to shape your future. And that's all that's important. What do you think to that?
Yeah, I agree. And we know at the time that we are recording this, it's very close to Christmas. So I know for a lot of people, some people are even relieved that they won't have to sit with their family members at the Christmas table this year because of the coronavirus, because they don't want to answer this question. Why are you single? Because it's so frustrating when people make that sad face. Oh, you're still single. Like you must be so miserable. There must be something so wrong with you. And yeah, I think it's really frustrating because I remember when I was single, and even watching something like the what's that film that I like, I watch every Christmas, The Holiday.
Yeah.
And when you watch that film when you are single and when you're not single, it's like a completely different thing. A completely different thing.
I can completely get that. It can be very depressing, or it can be a moment to think, well, this is a happy ending, isn't it?
But that's the thing also. I think there is this big bubble, people thinking that once you are in a relationship, all your problems will be solved. But the truth is, and I really don't want to be this love Grinch, is that your problems will 10x once you are in a committed relationship, because that's when the real work starts. That's why I'm sometimes a bit, I don't know, I'm a bit skeptical when it comes to people going and getting a matchmaker. Because if you're not willing to put all that energy that it takes to meet someone, and the dating and going on dates and all this like fun period at the beginning of the love, if you're not willing to put that energy and time, where are you going to find the energy and time to build that relationship? Because it's a hard work. It's a really hard work.
I work with quite a lot of matchmakers now. I work with 14 increasing all the time agencies out there in the UK. And I
Wow.
completely see your point. If you're thinking that, if they can't be bothered to meet someone themselves, and they're spending lots of money on a matchmaker, things aren't going to change. But I tend to think the people that join matchmakers are more open-minded. They're more likely to people that are going to take action, and they realize that what they're doing themselves, maybe on dating apps in particular, isn't working for them, and they're seeking a professional to then help them. But absolutely right there. If you are the sort of person that isn't making an effort, you are just wasting your money on that. In the same way, if you're going to join Match.com and spend the money and never contact people or never meet them, that's a waste of money. But this is one of the reasons why I coach people for agencies, because I get them ready for their journey. I work out what they're doing wrong, get them to do all the right stuff, give them the guided tour of dating and how it should be, particularly during these new rules. So I think for many people, joining a matchmaker can be a good choice, but it is an expensive one, like you said, if you're going to blow it and not make any effort.
Because just like with everything, you can get the best dating coach, but if you're not willing to do the work, if you are kind of listening what they're telling you, it's the same with all the books that we read. If you just read one book and you apply one thing that you learn from that book, I think you can completely transform your life. And I'm guilty of that myself. I like reading, I read these books, and I'm like, wow, this thing is amazing. But then I don't know, I just leave it and move to the next thing. And I think this is the same with relationships. Sometimes, because I know I used to have that thing where I would be like, and that was one of the reasons why I was single for many years, or not single, maybe in relationships that were not so healthy for me, is that I would meet someone and I would be very excited about the initial stage. I'm a very curious person, so I like figuring things out. I would be very interested in that man to find out like how he thinks, how he operates, why he does things the way he does. But once I get that, I would lose my interest, and then I would be like, oh, okay, this is boring and these things are not working, so let me move to this next person, because there must be something wrong with this person. Let me find someone better. And then I would find someone better, like, I mean, this is a video, so you can't see what I'm showing with my hands now, but and then this other person would be like again. So I think for someone maybe who finds themselves in that never ending cycle where you feel like, oh, I'm just going from one person to another, I think it's important to ask yourself, what is it that you are actually looking for? And maybe what you are looking for, you can find it in yourself, because a relationship, this other person is not going to fill that empty hole inside of you. It's just, it doesn't work like that. You have to work on yourself in order to be able to be that full rounded person to someone else. And I'm a bit also not want to be this love grinch, but not really a believer in the one, in the soulmates, in all these things. I'm a big believer in never ending work on your communication skills. I think if you can always work on that, you will be able to communicate with people, set boundaries, and yeah, not end up in these cycles where you're just not going anywhere.
That's a very valid point. I think you should always keep working on your relationship. It's always a work in progress, whatever happens. And people say to me, well, I'm not dating anymore, but I'm in a relationship. No, you should keep dating when you're with somebody, whether you're married. Dating carries on. It's not a certain period of time. It's something that you always should do. And you mentioned before people that are always jumping from one person to the next, looking for something better. That's the problem with dating apps in particular. They allow you to do that. You go on a date, it's all very nice, but I'm a bit bored now. I go and just see who else is out there. Have a little swipe, see who else I can find, and maybe they're going to be more interesting. And then you keep swiping through life, don't you? You keep swiping. You're always dealing the next card rather than sticking. That's what I like to say, like a card game.
I just remembered something when I was dating and I was going from one date to another. And I remember I matched with this guy. I went with him on a date, and then it was kind of boring. I excused myself to go to ladies, and you are not going to believe this. I'm so embarrassed to say this, but I was swiping on a dating app in the bathroom while I was with that person on the date. That's the thing, you see, it's so terrible, because if you are with someone on a date and you just feel like, oh, it's boring and all this, you can still ask questions, you can still get curious about that person. I truly believe that if you feel really bored with someone, it's only because you're not investing any time, you're not being present, and you're not showing up fully as yourself. So you're looking for this next great thing always. And as you said, you will never end looking for them if you don't make that decision. Okay, I need to just stop this.
It's a cycle you need to break. There used to be a dating app called Bad Dates, and you go on it if you're on a bad date, and you can go to the toilet and swipe somebody and find somebody else who is also out on a bad date, and then go and meet them who's in the local area and go for a drink with somebody else. And I've no idea if that even still exists. And I've mentioned this before on my podcast, but the whole concept fascinates me. I did a bit of work with the app a while ago, a few years ago, and I thought, well, it's a fun concept. Maybe it does solve a need. But like you said, I didn't really think about the bad side of the whole thing. People could be doing it who weren't really invested in the person sitting opposite them, not giving them a chance. It takes a lot of guts to go out on a date. It's a lot of bravery to put yourself in a vulnerable situation. Particularly women. Women have to do the makeup, do the hair. Men just have to have a shave and a shower. That's it. So I think even if you go and meet somebody, you realize within a few minutes they're not ready for you, then still use it as practice. Get to know them, make that person feel good, give them a good experience. They come away feeling that just meeting you is a good experience, and you've enhanced their life by doing that. But no, treat people with respect. What advice would you give somebody to respectfully get out of a bad date then? Other than hiding in the toilet or telling the waiter that your house is on fire, what would you do?
Oh, wow. I don't know. I think I would, even if I meet, I guess back in when I was dating, even if I meet someone and I really don't like that person, I would still be polite. I would make it like short and just have one drink or whatever, but I would never tell that person, oh, you're not good looking, or these things, because it, as you said, it takes a lot of bravery to put yourself out there. You don't know what damage you may cause to that person if you're being nasty, if you're ghosting them, if you're doing it. May be, it just may be one ignored message, but this may make this person not go on another date for another 3 years. I'm a big believer in karma, so I think you should always treat others the way you want to be treated. And if you are being mean with someone, then maybe you don't feel that good about yourself. because if you truly have good intentions, you're not going intentionally hurt someone, because you wouldn't want someone do that to you either.
Sometimes it's self-sabotaging, I think. They do this as a way of protecting themselves from getting hurt. They can reject the other person before they get a chance to be rejected. And in that situation, it's mainly because they haven't done enough inner work on themselves. You mentioned that yourself earlier. Now, obviously, you did the inner work. Is that right?
Oh yeah, it's been over a year now since I've been with my therapist.
Ah,
And I would say to whoever's listening, if you have money for eyeshadow palettes, if you bought boots this year, or a fancy bra, or a handbag, or whatever, you definitely got the funds for a therapist. And I know it might sound like a bit luxury, or for a lot of people, it's a big, oh, what's wrong with you? Why you need a therapist? But I can 100% tell you, if it wasn't for my therapist, I would not be in this relationship right now. I would not be living with my partner right now. And I think I would have been in my, like, the ways that were not right for me. Because another interesting thing about the second book that I wrote, the Why Am I Still Single book, is that I wrote it 2 months after getting from a mental hospital. So I spent 25 days at the mental hospital because I had like a little breakdown. And it was all because I was really nasty to myself. And I just didn't know how to have a good relationship with myself. And the thing is, if you don't have a good relationship with yourself, you can't have good relationships to anyone, with anyone. So it's, yeah, a little something, something. Now you know.
So what tips would you give somebody who does want to love themselves a bit more? What should you do beyond therapy, but more instant steps, something that's a bit quicker? What would you recommend?
So the first step would be watch the way you speak to yourself. If you do something, are you calling yourself stupid? Are you calling yourself names? Or are you being kind to yourself? It's a very cliche advice, but I think if you can learn to speak to yourself the way you would speak with your best friend, you will change. Everything around you will change. Because if you're being very self-critical towards yourself, you're being quite hard on yourself, because I know I was like that for many, many years, and that was really difficult for me. So I think that would be the first step.
That's a great first step. It's very, very important. You only tell yourself the good stuff. Otherwise, you're listening to some very, very bad critic, aren't you? And that's not going to help you. You've got to be empowered on your journey. And you've got to tell yourself nice things. And it's not always easy. We do tend to have a devil on one shoulder and an angel on another, telling us different things. I do all the time. And it's saying you should do this, you shouldn't do that. It's like Boris Johnson, don't they, really? But stay out, don't go out, stay in. They're saying these things. But yeah, so you just turn off, flick away the devil, flick it away. Just listen to the nice stuff, the ones that are going to make you better. And maybe write down compliments. I've said this before on the podcast. It's so important. Write down every compliment someone pays you, so you can remind yourself of all the good stuff about you that you might not always realize. And think about things that might go right. Just have a good experience with this, and be nice to yourself is it's a valid thing. Any other steps you'd recommend?
With compliments, I have this folder on my phone where when anyone sends me maybe a good message or something positive, they say maybe they read something and it helped them, maybe my video, or they read my book. So I've tried to, when I remember, to screenshot it and then put it in that folder. So when I have like a bit of a down day, or I'm feeling sad, or I feel life doesn't make any sense and I lose my will to live, not to get, too dark in here, but I just open that folder if I remember to do that. But I know if I did that more often, that would be really helpful.
That's brilliant. So you're doing what I advise then. You're taking these little compliments and things.
Yes.
Yeah, that's working. That's fantastic. It just proves that does work then, one little technique.
Hmm.
I used to do it. I used to make notes of these things and have them on a little thing on your phone, maybe, if you want to. Make a little note on there, or put it on the fridge if you really want to, or put it somewhere, even a Word document. Just have it so you can look at it and just remind yourself of all the wonderful things people have said about you. Because our brains hold on to memories and things people say unkind things to us quite often. And little comments made at school, comments people said to us by our parents, they just haunt us. So forget them. Think about the new things that are always going to serve you, and be really positive and just embrace it and just realize that we're all very vulnerable. We're all completely alone in that sense that we don't know what to do. There's no guidebook to life. There's no guidebook to relationships, really, other than our guidebooks, of course. There's just no general life book that we give them when we're born. So you've got to read this. This is what you need to do. We're all doing the best that we possibly can in life. And we're all just trying that. So treat yourself with respect, and you'll be able to treat others.
I think with what you just said, it's important, to remember those things when swiping on online dating sites, because sometimes it may feel that, oh, it's just another face, but it's not just another face. They're all people and they have feelings and they have all these things that happened to them in the past. So just maybe again introducing a level of compassion, and if someone is being nasty to you, it's okay, it's on them, it has nothing to do with you. You can always move on, but at least you know that you can go sleep at night and know that you're not being a horrible person to someone.
That's so important. People need to remember that always. What advice would you give somebody who wants to stop being single now, this very minute, decided now is the time they want to find a partner? What steps would you advise they take right this second?
What would I tell them? Firstly, I would go through my phone, and I would delete all the numbers that maybe I have a tendency to contact when I'm feeling a bit bored, when I'm feeling a bit lonely, when I'm feeling like, oh, I just have these numbers on the go, on rotation, because some women do that, or men, they have the luxury of that. I remember I had that. And because the interesting thing happens is that when you decide to let go of someone, then whoever you believe, God, universe, usually sends you this person that is much better. But you have to be able to select, because I look at it as, in your heart is like a jar filled with pebbles. There are just that many pebbles, that many men that you could be talking at the same time. I think it's a bit draining. And I know a lot of dating coaches are saying you have to have a funnel of men and all these things, but I think there are limits to that. So I would audit that. And then I would see how am I, because one of the reasons a lot of people are saying why they're single is that they don't have time. They're so busy. And I know people are busy, that's correct. But what are you like, when are you doing things through the day? Are you really busy because you're doing something that's helping you towards your future? Or you're just keeping yourself busy for the sake of busy, swiping on the phone and wasting your time and all this? So as a simple thing, maybe write down for a few days, what are you doing through the day? And where is your time going? And then you will see, like, okay, maybe instead of swiping on Instagram and like scrolling on Instagram for an hour and not doing anything, I could go on an online dating site and I could see what's out there. And maybe sometimes if you're not dated anyone for a really long time, it all may seem really daunting. So it just takes one decision. Okay, what is that one small thing that I can do today? One small thing, that change that I can do. Am I going maybe to get a book where I'm going to learn more about relationships and why I learn and why I love the way I do? Can I watch a video and implement something? Maybe I'm going to listen to James' podcast and I'm going to apply the things that I learned there. It's just one thing, because all it takes is just one thing, and then you validate yourself and the next day you move to the next thing.
That's an incredibly useful suggestion. People do always say they haven't got time. They're too busy with work, too busy with life, but they can always make time. Like you said, it's only going to be an hour. And an hour here and there is something you can easily do. You can go out on a date. You can go meet someone for an hour and a half for a glass of wine. It's not a big deal. And the same way, if somebody tells you that they're too busy to see you and they'll see you in a few weeks' time, that's a lot of nonsense as well. They could make time if they really wanted to see you, and you might see that. So I think often the reason that you're single is because you just haven't met the right person yet. And you will do by taking action, like you said, and doing something about it, by freeing yourself from all the bad leads, the people that aren't the ones that are going to serve you. You're going to be free to go out there and meet the perfect person who is just right for you, and thinking the same thing, wondering why they're single and wondering where you are. Put yourself out there, give yourself a chance so you can bump paths and cross paths with them. And as we are both living proof to this, that it's going to work for you and you're going to find you're happy ever after. So Ieva, thank you so much for this. It's been so useful. I have to round it off now. I know we could talk for a long, long time. I think we have to do another podcast about your How to Get Laid for Men book another time. That could be really useful for my guys. Guys, if you do want to see that, email me or email Ieva and let us know that you'd like to cover a podcast on that, and we'll definitely arrange it soon. If somebody wanted to buy your book, where would they find it?
They can find it on Amazon, or they can go on my book website, whyamistillsinglebook.com. And they can also get the first part of the book that will help you make sure that you don't marry the wrong person for absolutely free. So you can also do practical things if you go to whyamistillsinglebook.com.
Fantastic. Hopefully people go on there and you'll get the answers to all your problems and have a good read. It's probably a good present to buy someone for Christmas, although this might come out this might come out after Christmas. So if it does come out after Christmas and it might be in January, it could be a good present to get someone who is single around at Valentine's, or someone who's got a birthday, or just as a kind gesture to get a single friend with a good sense of humor who takes it well. So Ieva, thank you so much.
Reminded me, someone gave the book. They had a secret Santa at work, and they gave the book How to Get Laid Now to their single colleague, and he refused the book.
He refused it.
He refused it.
He was too embarrassed.
He said, "I don't need a book like that." Even though we knew he was single for 5 years, he's like, "I don't need this book."
That's why he's single. That's all you need to do. Refuse the book. Refuse to help. No, I think get as much information as you can and use it and take any help you can get. And that way you're going to be going out there making the changes and getting all the things that you really want in your life. Ieva, thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure talking to you.
Thank you so much for having me, James. It was lovely.
Great. Hopefully we'll speak again soon. And I look forward to any other books coming out soon?
No, not at the moment.
Okay.
Maybe something, how to stay in a relationship.
How to stay. Yeah, people ask me that all the time. People have coaching me on that. Great. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of your day and we'll speak again soon. Thank you. Thank you so much for listening. I'd love to give you a free copy of my latest book, which you can download right now from my website, jamespreece.com. If you enjoyed this podcast, I'd really appreciate it if you could share the love by taking a few seconds to write a positive review on the iTunes store right now. See you next time.